May the Force.
Force. The Force.
Force. Force.
Force.
The Force will be with you. Always.
Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your source for everything Star Wars gaming. Welcome to this episode of Star Wars Uplink. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and joined with me today is Bryan from the Pink Milk Podcast. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Apologize early in advance to all your listeners about my vast knowledge of video games.
Yeah, so in this podcast, like Bryan and Pink Milk, I really love their presence in the Star Wars community. Great source of just really impactful positivity in the Star Wars universe and the fandom. So I was like, okay, let's have him on the podcast. I kind of knew you were on the outskirts of video games, and then I sent you a message like, hey, would you be interested in coming on the podcast? And we started talking. You're like, I'm not a huge gamer guy, not really on that side of things, but I was like, okay, that's perfect. That's a really good perspective to have, because I'm like steeped in the video games. I don't play them as much as I want to anymore just because I'm so busy. But I love video games. I love Star Wars video games. They're starting to ramp up. And to get that perspective of someone who is more of the movies and the shows, your background, if you're watching this on video, is just incredible. I want to replicate it now. I want all those posters.
80s nerd. I'm an 80s kid nerd.
That Transformer movie poster in the background is the best Transformers movie. Oh, so good.
And it's if you are watching this on the podcast, it's like the 87, the only Transformers movie as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And that came all the way from Holland with me.
Oh, wow.
Like 2000, maybe 2001, somewhere in there, I brought it back.
That's incredible.
I wish it wasn't in English. It would have been even cooler, but
that would be
whatever.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It says Holland there in the fine print. That's all I need.
That's awesome. But in this episode, we're going to dive deep into all of the different aspects, the perspective of someone that is in the broader side of the Star Wars fandom. So let's jump right in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
So for people who don't know, what is Pink Milk?
We are a Star Wars podcast where we talk Star Wars queerly. We are all LGBTQ plus individuals, and that's kind of how we watch Star Wars. We watch it through our queer lens and do a lot of queer coding in the show, and just how like we see Din Djarin. I'll just go with Din Djarin because everybody loves our boy Din. Just so you know, he's gay, and this is canon. There is no interpretation. He's not bi, he's not pan, he is a gay dude, and he and Cobb Vanth are going to get married one day and raise baby Grogu together.
I can check out with that, yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. My boy Cobb Vanth, man. Last few episodes as we were breaking down Book of Boba Fett, like I love that dude. Like he is just, his character is so great, and like somehow was even better in Book of Boba Fett, like surprisingly so.
100%. Yeah. Oh God, I don't know. When we started, we had just had a live stream where I met Mark and Emma joined Pink Milk After Dark. So the Pink Milk started with my husband and I, and he's a casual fan at best, and we've been together now 14 something years. So he's been forced to listen to Star Wars for 14 years. And I was like, I've never heard a podcast where like just a casual person can listen, because like we get nerdy real quick and like it goes over most people's heads. So I was like, oh, that would be a really fun show. Then like everyone can listen. That was my mindset at the beginning. And then within a few months, I was like, well, no just casual Star Wars fan is really going to listen to a Star Wars podcast. That's like too nerdy. So it didn't work. But people like kind of liked that we were husbands talking about it. And that's just kind of what started to work. And then we've adopted 3 kids through the foster system. And our middle son was our last son to get to us. happened while we were on the podcast. And so it just kind of,
Oh, wow.
we started really talking about our found family, and that pairs so well with Star Wars, obviously. And so that kind of took over that part of the show. So Tom and I talk a lot about our found family experience. And then after dark, I met Mark and Emma through, speaking of Mandalorian, we started watching season 1 of Mandalorian. I thought it was the queerest show I've ever seen. Like I said, Din Djarin is gay. It is canon. And so I put together, I think there was like 10 of us in total, different queer people from all different shades of the rainbow. And we really talked about like our queer experiences. And there's still some of my favorite podcasts that we've done. I don't know if the audio quality, all that is the best, but I just think there was a group of queer people who got to talk about Star Wars in a way that we don't normally get to talk about it. And it was really impactful. And then Mark and Em and I just really hit it off. And so we started a live stream like everyone did during the pandemic.
Yep. I think it was Twitch numbers went up like 80 to 90% over the pandemic.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, we were all...
So what'd you do with your lack of commute? Well, I started a podcast and a live stream.
Exactly. Yeah, and then so we did After Dark, and that got, without my husband here to kick my shins, it got real thirsty real quickly.
Oh, boy.
And, Chase joined us earlier this year. They were a Steam Queen. That's what we call our viewers there in the chat room. And the four of us now have After Dark, and it's a lot of fun because we're all like super Star Wars nerds, so we can get deep and have all that stuff. It's a lot of fun.
What is your dream Star Wars pairing?
Like character, like a ship?
Yeah. What's your dream ship?
Oh, well, I can't say Din Cobb anymore because it's canon. So, but when that started, like Emma is a huge shipper. She's a fanfic writer and everything, right? And I had never heard of shipping before. I didn't know what this was. And I was
Were
like,
you talking about
I'm
the Razor Crest?
Exactly. I was like, I'm not really that into it. And then episode 1 of season 2 of Mandalorian came out, and those videos are very funny on YouTube because I was uncontrollably excited. And I would also say Storm Pilot, Poe and Finn, but that's also canon, so I can't really go with that. So let's go with a fictional ship, and let's go with Din Luke. I'll let Din. That's for Chase. That's for our other listeners who are Din Luke shippers. I'm here for that. That's fine. Let's go with that one.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, diving a little bit deeper. You're a huge Star Wars fan. We've been kind of hinting on you're diving deeper, especially in this kind of queer lens towards it, and then diving Jen into that. What is your perspective on like the video games? Like, are you someone who really wants to play the games, just can't find the time, and you really want to experience that story? Like, what is that perspective for you?
Well, I wish I could play Super Star Wars and all of those games from Super Nintendo because those are amazing. I know you can somehow do them right on what are they called? An engine on the computer. And
they released it wasn't necessarily a remaster, but it was a port to the PlayStation 4 that you can play it on.
Oh, really? Okay, well, see, you already talked about a port. I don't know what that is. But I'm going to figure it out. No, I wish I could play the games more, to be totally honest. I don't know how.
Okay.
I can't. This is, if you're not watching, I know how to look up. And then I know how to look down on the ground. I cannot get past it. My son and I try to play Battlefront sometimes, and I like to watch. So I always watch cutscenes and all that stuff on YouTube. And I really want to play them. I just don't know how. Okay.
Are you like you say you're watching like cutscenes and that kind of thing? So you know the stories of these games, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of like how the stories of these video games are actually interweaving into the shows? Obviously, not as much as I definitely want them to. Like, it'd be so great if, and I'd be down for Cal Kestis to show up in Obi-Wan. Like that'd be so great.
Oh, dude, Cal Kestis is coming. Like it's
got to happen, right?
They are broadcasting it way too much. And again, forgive me, I don't always remember planet names. So we had the planet in season 2 with Grogu on the Seeing Stone. That was from Fallen Order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Inquisitor. Whatever, the Inquisitor castle.
The exact castle you go through in Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes. And all your listeners now, like Bryan doesn't really like Star Wars. He doesn't know any names. No, I love it. Like I was really so excited for Battlefront fans in TLJ when the compass was there in the background. Like that stuff is so cool to me. And then when you found out, I don't remember if it was like a specific YouTube thing, but they were going in to detail about how they made it, and it was like that last minute edition, but they all put so much care and time into it. Like that's just like,
and even
that's awesome.
The in Battlefront 2's campaign, they had like the whole basically like Force vision that you go through, and you're turning through these corridors. That's basically the Force Skyping that they did in The Last Jedi, and the writers said they threw that they wrote that in there as like a really fun thing for the Force, but they had no idea that it was going to show up in The Last Jedi, and they were so happy when they were watching it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that's the thing we did."
That's like that. Oh, I'm here for it. I think like the story of Battlefront with Iden Versio, right? Is that her name?
Yep, Iden Versio.
I think I wish some of that stuff was actually more baked in the sequel trilogy, personally. Like, I'm a huge fan of Bloodline, a book. I don't know if everyone should read it. It's so good. Like,
yeah, that's
my favorite Star Wars book. It's so good.
Dude, I'm right there with you. That Star Wars Bloodline, I love that so much. And it did a really good job of painting the political side of things of Star Wars in a much more digestible way that was very clear. You got the intricacies of it, instead of like the Clone Wars or the prequels where they're like, yeah, we've got politics, man. It's like, not really. Look, I'm in my 40s. I know I'm not supposed to love the prequels as much as like what I'm supposed to stereotypical love, but the prequels are my favorite Star Wars. Like, I love them. Wow. I mean, I've grown to appreciate them. I had a very unique experience. Like, I was growing up with the prequels, but I never really watched them. It was original trilogy all the way. Like, my parents were like, we're watching the original trilogy. And like, I don't think it was like an effort thing where they're like, you're not watching the prequels, but like we were introduced to Star Wars with the original trilogy, and that's what we watched all the time. I wanted to be Luke. I had like my Taekwondo vest that I wore around. I had I had a belt, and I put my lightsaber on there. I wanted to be Luke.
I love it.
And then we watched the prequels, obviously, and we really appreciated the settings and all of that stuff. But like there was the time in, what was it, the early 2000s, maybe 2010s, where prequel hate was at its highest. And like I didn't watch them forever. And then going back several years ago and rewatching them, like there's just the world building there, the characters, the everything else. They did such a great job. And I'm glad to see that there is more of this rise of prequel stuff, because like you saw, whether you like it or not, you heard Luke say Palpatine in The Last Jedi, which like who would have thought that would ever happen?
And it was so good. Oh God. Yeah. Look, you asked me about video games, and look how quickly I diverted that question. Let's talk about prequels.
So like what is your dream video game? Like if you could say, hey, this is the game that I want to play, is it?
I think the Lego game is about to give me my dream video game. Like, I don't know if I would love it to look like Lego exactly. Like, it's not totally my jam. Like, I have 3 kids, so I live with lots of Legos and Ninjago and all that. But I love the idea of being able to be any character in any saga and just kind of like writing your own story. Like, if that would be my dream video game, like a choose your own adventure book. and any character anywhere, I think would be really fun. And 2D. Give me a side scroller. I'm here for a side scroller game. Maybe a beat 'em up still. Like, actually, yeah, can I do that? Can I have any character from any trilogy on any
That'd be
world?
so great.
But a side scroller beat 'em up.
And actually be good. Because they had, I think it was Terrakasi. They did a Star Wars fighting game. That so bad.
The coolest thing that came out of Terrakasi was when Kira mentions Terrakasi in the Solo movie. I was like, there we go. That made it worth it.
Yep. Yeah. That's such a bad game. Like I'd love to see like a heroes versus villains game, like the mode in Battlefront.
Yeah.
Where for a while Battlefront 2 was like, no, we're trying to make it as canon as possible. You can't have non-era heroes on the maps and all that fun stuff. And I'm glad that for heroes versus villains they started doing that. But honestly, I would love to fight 8 Grievouses versus 8 Lukes. That'd be great. I think it'd be super cool.
Yes.
I think you can do that too with the Kyber mod that they have.
I see you're already over my head, my friend.
There is
is a mod like you can buy like separate things? Is that what it is?
So
like you can buy skins?
It's a fan community thing where they got a bunch of developers. It's open source and they're working together. They work together to implement this modification that you can download and add to your game. And you can do custom matches, private matches, and you can even like customize which characters are on the game. Like it's crazy the amount of stuff
that's
that they've been
amazing.
able to do. So I think you can do that on there, but I don't necessarily dive too deep into the mods side of things of the games. But it's always there, like, man, I kind of want to do that.
Is this just like people in their living rooms and basements and stuff doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, just the fans of the community. They really want something. They want to keep the game going when the developers have kind of ended the support. So they're like, let's do something. And now that it is no longer getting updates, they don't have to work around the game constantly changing. So they can develop this and have a pretty good code base. Dude,
that is rad. Like that conversation might help me get into video games all in itself, because I think that sounds so cool.
The community come together.
I just bought, maybe a year ago, Streets of Rage, which was like a big game on the Sega Genesis when I was a kid, and they just came out with number 4, and I want that as a Star Wars game. Like, I love it. Like, pays respect to where it came from, but like the animation is so rad. Yeah, and I love that's what I want. That's what I want.
I think there's so much growth and opportunity to have in the video game space. I really we're starting to get more, but I hope that we start getting a lot more, and we eventually do get the case where yes, there's Star Wars games that are bad that are coming out, but we also have 5 Star Wars games that came out this year. So if one of them's bad, that's fine. I've got 4 others that I can play. And we're slowly but surely getting more developers that are working on it. Yep. But it's still like there's still this weight of it. Like everything has to be this huge thing. It's like, no, I'm fine with just having like a game where I play a droid on Coruscant that I have to go and like solve puzzles. Like that'd be great.
It would be awesome. Yeah, I would love it if Lucasfilm reached out to, and this could be across a lot of mediums too, like even like comics and stuff, like give it to some indie creators. And if you need to specify it's not canon, like I'm not a big person, I don't really care what's canon versus not canon for me. I like Emma on After Dark is like way into it. It's really important to her. But like I think that would be fun, you know, like Cuphead and stuff like that. I love the things that these like indie people do. It's just so like out there and amazing. And that's also, that game is impossible. It's so damn hard. Excuse me.
It's so difficult.
It's so hard. But yeah, like I would love Star Wars to do that. Like I miss George Lucas and his indie mindset. Like I mean, I know George could be a little cranky, but he had his middle finger up at like lots of people all the time. And I kind of miss that. That's one of the reasons that I love The Last Jedi so much. And I also understand why a lot of people have frustrations with it, because I do feel there is a little bit of a middle finger up
Mm-hmm. Oh,
in
definitely.
in like a respectful way. It just felt very true to what.
But
Yeah, it felt like what George would do. You know,
Yeah.
like I just was like, I'm here for that. I love it,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like indie gamers come in with a different. Indie creators, let me say that because I'm not
Yeah.
a gamer. So let me say indie creators come in with a different hunger
Mm-hmm.
and a different perspective. And when you give someone who didn't normally get a shot, they usually really care. So it shows.
Yeah.
And you're going to get something interesting because if you're an artist and a creator like that, you're going to go against the grain because this is my one shot. I'm going to do everything that I wanted to do that I
Yeah.
didn't think they ever would. And I think you get some great stuff.
Yeah, and like that's something that I want to see go to even the movies as well. I would love to see those smaller experiences. Like nothing. I don't. In my personal opinion, something that I want more in Star Wars is those smaller experiences. I want to see that more personal thing. I don't want everything to interconnect. This is not Marvel. I don't want it to be Marvel. I don't want it to have constantly connecting things where nothing ever ends. Like I would love a beginning, middle, and an end. Make Lost Stars into a show or a movie. That'd be great.
Yes.
A lot of people would love it. Like, I think those type of experiences are something that we're desperately lacking, and they're playing it pretty safe for a lot of those decisions. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, The Battlefield Show, Star Wars Uplink, and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink Podcast and StarWarsUplink.com.
Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Taking a little side tangent here. What did you think of Book of Boba Fett?
Well, this is gonna be difficult, especially because you started this conversation with how positive we are, or I, and I'm in a much better place now. I really did not like it at all. Like, and I'm sorry, everyone. I really am positive. If you haven't heard me before, hopefully that'll still shine through. But for me, it was the worst thing that Star Wars has ever done. I love the two Din Djarin episodes. I was here for those, and it gave me some really great moments. But I like when Star Wars digs deeper. That's what I'm into. Like I'm not. I call it the pew pew pews. I think everybody calls them the pew pew pews. I'm not here for that. That's fun. Like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I like the spiritual stuff. I'm a huge Force person. And I just felt this show for me just felt very surface level.
Yeah.
And
it took away from the character of Boba Fett for me. Like I went back and I was making a YouTube short and I was doing one about Boba Fett and how his like attire changed, and I'm going back and looking at those old scenes and I'm like, man, this dude sucks. He's boring. He's slow. He's old, and that was like just out of the Sarlacc pit, and I don't think we never got a true reason why he was that way. We never got to truly experience him and his character arcs. Nothing that was specifically to him.
Yep.
And then we got my favorite Star Wars ever were those two like that first Mandalorian episode. I think it was episode 5. Oh my gosh, that was everything I wanted Star Wars to be. But I also hate those episodes because it was not Book of Boba Fett. Like, favorite Star Wars ever, but I also dislike that they had to do that. Like, they knew that they weren't making a strong story. They're like, wait. We got Mando here. This is good. It's like Boba Fett's the original Mando, and Mando's a stronger character than Boba Fett is.
Yep. You know, I think I was really, really excited about the show before it came out. Like, I was so stoked on it. I'm a massive Clone Wars fan. Like, I for me, it's the foundation that all of Star Wars sits on. I think it's so good. I love everything about it. And I love what they did with Boba Fett and that. Like, he was really cool. He was really interesting. It was sad. We watched it, my husband and I, who had never seen it before, as like a prep for the Book of Boba Fett before it came out. And Tom, my husband, was like, "Oh, I never really saw Boba Fett that way. I actually feel kind of bad for him now." And I'm like, that's great. It gave that character some dimension, right? It was awesome. And I really liked the Bad Batch. I didn't love the execution everywhere. I think personally that could have been like chopped in half, the amount of episodes.
Yeah.
But I like what was going on underneath everything, so I'm really excited for season 2 of that. But I was so stoked for Book of Boba Fett to dig into being a clone.
Yeah.
And what that meant. And hoping that maybe they would talk about like his identity as a clone. There in season 2 of Mando, when he and Bo-Katan meet up, and she's like, it's like, "I've heard your voice 1,000 times before." That single line made me so excited for the Book of Boba Fett.
Or and even just the mentioning of being not a real Mandalorian.
Yes.
Like that's powerful.
Yes.
Did they get into that at all? No.
I just like, here's the thing. I know like you had mentioned earlier that you weren't a fan of all this interconnection stuff, and I can totally feel that, but we're getting it. So part of me is like, well, maybe we will get that through other shows and we'll start to dig into Boba Fett that way. Maybe if we meet some clones.
Yeah, he's a
Rex
great secondary character because like we saw him and Mando, and it was great. Like he was fast, he was beating the crap out of everybody. Yes. And then the Book of Boba Fett, he's like, I need to get them back down. It's like, dude, seriously, what happened to you?
And every episode was like, oh God, come on. I don't know. It was, maybe I'm going to like it later, but I've never watched them again. Like I usually go watch these things over and over, and I've just had no interest. Which I'm really disappointed about because
I would disagree that it is the worst Star Wars we've gotten because in my opinion that's Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker is a good it's a good buffer to know that I might not like a Star Wars. Though I've grown to like that more.
Oh,
than
really?
I did. Like, oh God, that was hard for me. And that was all on the podcast, right? Like, so we had started our show right before The Rise of Skywalker came out. And of course I left going, oh God, this is the greatest. I was so excited because it's a new Star Wars. And then over the course of like 3 episodes, I felt like I went through the 7 stages of grief along with everybody. And then I really did not like it for a while. Now I'm warming up to certain things. But, a lot of our followers love The Rise of Skywalker. Like, love it, which always makes me feel good because I'm very vocal that I don't like it. But I'm glad that, like, at least on our show, we can not like something and not push people away. Like, I'm really proud of that. But then talking to some of our listeners and our Steam Queens, I have learned to like the movie more than I did before. Okay. Which is awesome. That's like the greatest thing about making a show.
And that's the great thing about some discussions that you can have. Like, you can maybe not like fully love it as much as the other person does, but you can come to understand their point of view, which is what Star Wars is all about, is from a certain point of view. Yep. I just struggle from like the story beats of that movie. Just there's no character growth. They're reverting everything, and they're just trying like, oh hey guys, we know we did a lot of things to the Jedi and Rey, and we're going to say that it does not matter who your family is, you can change the universe. Which I love that idea. That storyline is epic, so great. Actually, no, nepotism wins all the time.
That's funny. So like, I love that part. Like, I'm here for that. She's the host on After Dark with us, is a Rey nobody through and through, and I'm like a Rey Skywalker through and through.
Okay.
So we've had some great conversations about those things. Like, and that's one of the things I love it, because you're right. Star Wars is another big part of it is a certain point of view.
Yeah.
Like, one doesn't have to negate the other. Just have a conversation, and maybe like, isn't it enjoyable to try on a different hat every once in a while, or like buy more than one pair of sunglasses? Today I feel like rocking these, and put them on and watch a movie that way. Like, I find conversations frustrating when it has to be one is right and one is wrong. Like, you can both be right.
Yeah. And that's something too, kind of going a little bit deeper on that topic is like, I have a lot of struggles with Book of Boba Fett, but what I love most about it is we had another thing to discuss. Like, it was so fun talking about it on the podcast and like breaking it down. And well, like, I got really used to Netflix dropping an entire season and binging the whole thing. I started really enjoying going back to the 90s, 2000s and being a weekly show. Like, it was great to hear everyone talking about the same things. Now, I really wish people would stop talking about spoilers so quickly after the show drop. Like, come on, it comes out on Tuesday night, and you're already talking about it Wednesday morning. I just woke up. I watch it at night. Stop it.
Yeah, but it's addictive too. Like those little dopamine hits of a heart. You want to get it out there. Like I understand the urge.
Yeah,
100%. But like, yeah, dude, I'm the same way. Like, I kind of like them on Friday. I miss Friday because it seemed very easy to ignore it on the weekend. Yeah. And that's selfish. I'm a dad, so I'm always busy like on the weekends. And so then I can go back Monday, and I'm like, oh, Monday's fine.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What did you think of Visions? Because that doesn't tie to anything.
I love Visions. Like, I love that they said, hey, this is not canon. We're just giving a lot of really talented people the Star Wars license and seeing what they're doing.
Yep.
So great. I would love that. Like, I want more of that. Make video games that are like that. Make comics that are like that. Explore the what ifs. I would love a Star Wars what if.
Oh my God, heck yes. Have you read this book?
I have not.
Ronin?
I saw it at Barnes & Noble. I was like, that looks pretty cool.
Ronin is one of my favorite books. I am not the smartest person in the world. I'm not the greatest reader, so I will put that out there. For me, it was a very difficult read, but a really enjoyable one. Like, it's one of my favorite Star Wars books. Like,
I'll have to pick it up. I used to be like on top of all the Star Wars books, but they came out so quickly. I worked at a library, and that was the least amount of time I've ever read in my life was when I was working at our local public library.
I like the High Republic. It's cool. I've read more of the comics because, like you said, there's just too many. So I read Justina Ireland stuff and Claudia Gray stuff. That's who I read.
Claudia Gray
I like the comics.
Such a talented writer too.
My favorite. I think
Christy Golden's a really good one too.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I loved Visions for that same reason. I love that we just got a bunch of people, and it was deep. Like,
it was.
You have an 8-minute episode, and I'm like, oh God, I still live in a Visions world. Like, that's I loved all of them so much.
I mean, we got a lightsaber umbrella thing. Like, that's just awesome.
Speaking of lightsaber umbrellas, I'm going to take an opportunity to listen or to talk to another listening group and say justice for flying lightsaber helicopters and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Give me helicopter lightsabers.
I hope
please.
so. I hope so.
It's
so iconic. How can they put the Inquisitors there and not do that?
I'm not saying I necessarily want them to take off in flight because. But I would like a George Lucas middle finger moment up where they like jump off something with a spinning light, like the spinning. Give it to me, please.
Speaking of Inquisitors, so we had this discussion on Twitter back and forth about like the topic of the show, and you're like, we got to make sure to talk about Jedi Fallen Order. So. What do you think of Jedi Fallen Order?
Well, right now I think I feel bad because I do believe I told you I was going to play it. Have I done it? No. I bought it for my 40th birthday. My 41st birthday, and I'm going to be 43 here in a few months. So it's still sitting in the shrink wrap.
You're really savoring it. Let it like
I really am.
Let it sit there, marinade.
I'm gonna wait for those mods to come out so I can like play like whatever it is or the plugins or whatever you said they were. No, I love Fallen Order. Emma, again, shout out to Emma who I keep mentioning today because I love you. But like she loves Fallen Order so much. Chase loves Fallen Order. Those cutscenes were like amazing. Yeah. And that's part of why I think I've been so reluctant to play it because I know I'm going to be terrible. And it's going to be very frustrating because I'm not going to get anywhere.
Just turn the difficulty down to the story one. It's great.
Okay.
I played the entire game in one sitting on stream.
Seriously?
Yes. It took me 16 hours, I think it was. It was quite the time. It would have taken me a lot less, but I was playing through on the normal difficulty level, and I wanted not to switch at all. So I probably spent like 2 hours fighting the final boss battle. And I had to change the difficulty level. Like, it was that, like, I was going so straight through. I wasn't doing a lot of the side stuff to unlock any extra equipment or upgrades or anything like that. So I was basically straight storyline, wasn't going to do a lot of the side stuff that you can do there to level up your character and get extra unlocks. So I get there and like I'm so close. Like I was 2 hits away from defeating her, and I was like, I died. And just silence as I'm there contemplating my life. Just there like, what am I doing with my life right now? My wife afterwards, after I end the stream, was like, I have never seen you this mad at video games.
After 16 hours and then that was it? Did you get to go back?
I mean, you can play through it again.
Wait, from the beginning?
Yeah. So it's a very linear game. So it's a very linear game. It's a pretty concise story. You do have you can hop in between different areas. Yeah. But I think once you end it, you like end it completely. But
that's Trilla, right?
Yeah.
Seventh sister? Is that her
I think
name,
the seventh sister, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I told my son today, my oldest son, I've now uttered it out loud, so it has to be done. And I'm feeling inspired right now, so I'm going to watch him play. I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch him play.
That's good. Yeah, do that.
Because he's good. You know, he's 12. I think at 12 years old, you're built to be good at video games, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But
prime time video game.
So I am excited because I really like Cal Kestis. I like that story. I loved that aspect of Kanan Jarrus's character, and we got a little bit of that, you know, in Rebels. And so I'm excited to really explore, because like I said, I know the story, I know it, but to like be involved with it, and the way Emma speaks of this game is how you're living his life through him and all, like, it's just the way honestly, anytime Emma speaks about Star Wars ever, it's like beautiful. But I'm excited to kind of experience that part of needing to hide yourself. And like I said, we do a lot of queer coding on the show, and like the idea of the Jedi hiding who they are when they were free to be who they were, and then a government comes in and takes over who they are. Like a lot of us queer people can relate to needing to hide who we are or who we were at certain times, especially me. I mean, I came out in the 90s and early 2000s. Like, it was a very different landscape. Yeah. And for safety, we had to hide who we were sometimes. And so, like, I'm excited to explore that journey because, again, that's how I like to get into Star Wars. It's a very personal thing, and I like to experience him and watch him be able to come out and be comfortable who he is by the end. I'm excited to walk that journey with him, if that makes sense. Like, it's a great story, and I really like that perspective on it too, of because it's such a impactful storyline, like having this part of you that you just cannot share. Like, it's super strong, and so many people can relate to that. And that's what I hope that Obi-Wan gets really right too, is because, like, I am disappointed when the report came out that they had to rewrite the script because it was too depressing and dark. I'm like, oh, that's what I want though. I want, like, because, like, if you think about it, Obi-Wan, his religion gone, wiped off the face of the planet. He is now in hiding. He cannot fully realize himself. It is depressing. The Empire is going around claiming planets, killing Jedi, taking all of these horrible efforts to retain control of the galaxy. It's super early on in that transition, and
he is there trying to protect Luke. And you have to be like, I hope they get into this, is like, you as someone who has this power, you have a lightsaber, you have the Force. Are you going to sit there and watch this kid? Or are you going to try to help make the universe better? Like, I think that's such a... I hope one of the villains in this story is himself and a doubt in his abilities.
Dude, I'm with you. 100%. I'm excited. I'm really excited for Obi-Wan for lots of reasons. But Deborah Chow being one of them.
Yes,
because
best
I think,
director in The Mandalorian.
Like, yeah, she understands action. Like, they looked great. She really understands. That's something I walked away with from the Book of Boba Fett, of really appreciating a director who knew how to use the volume. Because I feel like when you watch Bryce Dallas Howard's episode, the first one with Mando, it felt so big. And Boba Fett, excuse me, Boba Fett felt so small.
Yeah.
But like not in a good way. Like I'm here for a very small focused Star Wars, but like it just they felt limited, if that like technically. So Deborah Chow really knows how to use the volume. She understands action, and she also brought us, and if I remember correctly, the whole ball, the little shifter knob, was like a spur of the moment decision, and look how important and like every single Star Wars fan cries every time we see that thing pop out of Mando's pocket. We're like, so I'm excited for that. I'm also excited to see, because Dave Filoni, who I stan major for, and Jon Favreau are not a part of this. So I feel like we're going to see for the first time what Lucasfilm's vision of Star Wars is. You know, I love that we got Visions, you know, because it was a different perspective. And now we get to see other people's perspectives and to see what Lucasfilm has learned about Star Wars after making the sequel trilogy. I think it's going to be really cool.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that they weren't a part of it. So that's going to be, it's going to be very good or very bad for Lucasfilm being a part of it in that bigger regards. Because I feel like
100%.
Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, they have very opinionated views on Star Wars, and that allows them to get stuff out there in the way that we get Mandalorian. And I think where Mandalorian season 2 failed is when Lucas or Disney was like, this is really popular. People are buying Disney Plus because of this. Let's start throwing all the characters in there. So hopefully we start to see that maybe that universe is theirs and we start to see that kind of interweaving, interconnecting, but we get stuff like Obi-Wan. And ultimately what we're both saying is we want more women in charge of directing Star Wars because they have done the best job with Star Wars.
So far, yeah.
Like that Bryce Dallas Howard episode of Book of Boba Fett, like I'm not kidding you. That is my favorite Star Wars thing that has happened in the last 20 years probably.
Oh, dude. It was so good. Like
the opening.
Okay, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see. Look at my hairs. I'm just thinking about my hair stand up. I'm so like it's so. I mean, I can't believe. Again, I have loved Star Wars my entire life. I am almost 43 years old. Like it has been in my veins for a very, very long time. The Din Djarin has become so incredibly important to me. Like that character is on the same level as Luke Skywalker for me. Like he's so good. When I saw that silhouette pop out, no one had any idea he was coming. Okay, whatever. Rumors were out there he was going to come. Whatevs. But oh my God, it was just so good. And then my heart broke when he started slicing and dicing everybody because like, yes, on the surface, it looks cool. This is when Star Wars is top tier for me. Like this is when everything it was choreographed beautifully. The effects were awesome. And for a second, you're like, oh my God. Yes. You're like, oh, he's got the darksaber. This is so rad. And then you peel it back. And we knew that Din Djarin wanted to stop that life. And he lost his child and went right back to it. And all of a sudden, you watch it the second time and it has such a different vibe to it. I'm like, that is like top tier Star Wars for me. It was so good. Like, I want that in Obi-Wan. And I do think we're still going to get a really sad story. I know the article you're speaking of, but like, look at Bad Batch. Look at how Bad Batch ended.
Yeah.
Like, it was not a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
That actually watching Tapioca City go down on Camino was really sad. It was awful. It was really hard to watch.
Yeah.
But it still ends a little hopeful, you know? Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorite endings. And it's not a good, it's hopeful, but it was not a good ending. So hopefully that's kind of the route they take, because it can't end well. We know what happens.
Yeah.
It's not going to be rainbows and lollipops at the end of the story, you know?
I heard a really good thing too, that like I have issue with Luke's character in that in Book of Boba Fett, because like he's making the same mistakes that, like, did you learn nothing from all of the past experiences of the Jedi? You're making Grogu make this decision, like you learn nothing. But it does eventually check out someone. I can't remember who it was or where I saw it. I think it was on Twitter, but someone was like, the reason that, I think it was a comment on one of our podcasts, I believe it was, and then they're like, the reason, at least in their perspective, that Luke is this way is because he ends up being that really angry guy in The Last Jedi. Like, he is still holding so hard to what his belief of the Jedi are, that they are these people that are like so righteous and believe that they are without fault. So he's going down that same path, which is very different from Legends Luke, where Legends Luke was like, no, they failed miserably, and I'm going to try not to make those mistakes again, but I'm going to make some mistakes. Hopefully they're different ones.
Yep. Dude. Gosh. My listeners like to tease me how much I do not like Luke Skywalker. Oh, I mean, I love Luke Skywalker. He is my hero, but like,
yeah,
I had a really hard time watching him take Grogu away at the end of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's wrong. It's wrong. And again, like, I watch Star Wars through my own life, and I think about my kids, you know. Mm-hmm. And to me, Din Djarin is a foster dad. And watching a child who finally, watching a child who for 50 years or so was being raised by a group of people who tell them that I can't really love you because, you know, there's a world that's more important than you.
Yeah.
And everything that happened to him there, and then have a parent who thought that he could do the same thing, because we meet Din Djarin, he thinks, whatever. And realize that there's something else. Yeah. And then they both really save each other. And there's a connection there. And that child, Grogu, finally had a parent. And then that parent, not feeling worthy, because he's also living under the weight that the Jedi are better than everybody else, because that was the stereotype that they wanted to put out there. More Jedi failings. And then our hero, who we love, Luke Skywalker, and don't want him to fall down the same path as his dad, the first thing we do is he takes away a character from this bond that we loved. Yeah. And it was really powerful. I love the story choice. Like, as a move fan out and just live in that galaxy and watch my hero fail is really hard. Like, I get so upset. And it's a bit of a joke now, but like, I love the story choice. I don't like the reality choice. Yeah. as for Grogu, if that makes sense. Like, and I feel the same way once we see him in Book of Boba Fett. Like, you are taking all of the wrong lessons. And it's really upsetting to see that.
And he's like,
but if you think about
the cop out too, where he doesn't even deliver Grogu. Like, dude, you just got faced with your own problems. Like, you realized how much of a poor decision that was to make him choose. And you're not even going to take him back? What the heck, dude?
I'm not going to make any fans here on your show, but also Luke Skywalker always runs away from everything. I love Luke, but he runs away from everything all the time. Even his big epic moment at the end of Return of the Jedi, he kind of gave up. And he made it Anakin's choice. It was not Luke's choice. Anakin chose to save him. Sorry. But like, Luke that's what Yoda tells him. It's always been Luke's struggle. Luke is a hero at heart, but doesn't always have the backbone to follow through with it. Unlike his sister, who was almost too selfless until she met Luke and Han. That she pushed through everything, but was also almost the other side of the Jedi, and almost where some of the decisions Saw Gerrera made. She had more compassion than he did, but like I think her problem was that she only saw the big picture.
Yeah.
She saw the cause, not the people. And Luke Skywalker sees the people, but not the cause. And I think they're really, really beautiful balance together as like twins. Yeah, I love that. But I agree. I think watching Luke do that
I just imagine their like sibling relationship of you've got Leia working in the working in the New Republic, like making a name for herself, like making this galaxy great, and you've got the crazy brother out there that's like on this jungle forest building a temple with rocks that robots find. The contrast.
With robot ants.
Yeah.
Yep. Dude, again, because
Luke's just over there.
But like, this is what's so amazing. Leia, like, and again, if you are listening and you haven't read Bloodline, read Bloodline because it's amazing. But like, look at Leia. She leans into. She built a name for herself again in the greater galaxy in the rebellion, and she leaned into that. Luke kind of fell off the pressure from who he was, and he ran away. I love Luke so much, but he kind of
he
runs
got into
away.
this really weird religion thing, and
like that's what I loved about Rey. Like Rey was the best of both Luke and Leia. Like Luke, I think about Luke. He was forever. He wanted to be a part of the Empire, right? He wanted to go to the school, and then he meets one person. He's like, "Oh no, I hate the Empire now." But everything was taken away from him every time. Like he is met with like despair at every turn. Every time he has an expectation of what something is, it wasn't that, and that would be really hard to live through that, And I think it's a very realistic. All the choices that he makes are very realistic in a fairy tale setting, but like they're really realistic. And I love that Rey had a very similar background, but instead of running away from things, she runs towards them. And I think what a great way to end the Skywalkers. Like she really is both Luke and Leia in one person. And I think it's so good. I love Rey.
That's a really interesting take too. Not one that I drew that conclusion with either. So I appreciate that perspective. Yeah, I think that's what
I love that in Star Wars. I love I don't always want definitive this is the way it is. Yeah. Because it is a fairy tale and we're supposed to see I think it's written to see ourselves, and I call it the helmet all the time. There's so many helmets in Star Wars because we should be able to imagine us underneath that helmet, and we bring our experience into those characters. And so every single person's view of Star Wars is wholly unique to them and their experience. And that's why I love to share Star Wars, because it's this thing that everybody knows Star Wars. They might not be as knee deep into it as we are, but everybody knows Star Wars. So everybody has a Star Wars story to share. And it's for me, and that's one of the things I loved about the podcast and all that, is connecting to people through Star Wars. But that's just the door that we walk through, so we can all go into the same room. And then once you're past that, how we watch Star Wars says so much about those people that we may not know, and their life histories and their stories and their views on the world. It's a really great gift for me. That's how it's so great.
I love that so much. I think that is a fantastic place to call this episode an end, because I know we could keep on talking for the rest of the day for sure. What a fantastic place to end this episode. Again, thank you so much for joining and coming on the show for our 50th episode of the Star Wars Uplink rebrand. It's great.
Happy 50th. Happy 50th. The Saturday Night Live character. I'm 50 and I'm fabulous, or whatever she says.
Really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. Hopefully, listeners, you still liked it, and I know nothing about your words, so thank you.
I like your words, Patrick.